G'day CRC family. Thank you Pastor Art for the opportunity to introduce today's discussion with Sean and online business entrepreneur Marnus van Niekerk. The Bible says in Proverbs 16 verse 3, commit to the Lord whatever you do and He will establish your plans. Psalm 37 verse 5 to 6 says, commit your way to the Lord, trust in Him and He will do this. He will make your righteous reward shine like the dawn, your vindication like the noonday sun. Today, Marnus shares his story on how to succeed in taking your business online and digital. He will share on the details of the importance thereof, which extends far further than just an email, but standing on the Word of God and trusting Him in your purpose. We all have a purpose, and our purpose is to win souls for Jesus Christ. So yes, even as a business person, that is your ultimate purpose, and that is to win souls for Jesus Christ. Be assured of our love and support. Stay connected and speak to your pastor. Be blessed as we hand over to Sean for today's discussion with Marnus.
Good afternoon, CRC family. Today I'm speaking to Marnus van Niekerk. He is the founder of Ticket Pro and of online businesses, and he's a long-standing member of CRC. Welcome, Marnus.
Thank you, Sean.
I wanted to ask you already for a long time, in your view, what is the difference between an online business, a business in the cloud, and a physical business, a business with buildings, with people, with offices, and so on?
Sean, it's a multifaceted question, but for me, the biggest difference is from an approach and a process perspective. If you build what I would like to call a traditional business, there's a tendency to think about office space, think about the people that you need, think about all the physical resources, and there's a tendency to just throw resources at problems. If you really want to build an online business, then you have to think about processes, you have to think about automation, because at the end of the day, online businesses only do really well if they can cut back on costs compared to traditional business. And for that, you need process. You need things to be completely automated. You need the business in a large sense to be on autopilot, to run itself automatically instead of just throwing resources at problems all the time like you would do in a traditional business.
But that means that you have to spend a lot of time really thinking through your processes to understand what is really critical here, and how does this connect with data, and how does this connect with clients? I mean, can you walk us through an example of how you've had to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. You're 100% right. You have to spend a lot of time planning the business and planning the data model for the online services, planning how all of that is going to integrate with third-party services. And if from a practical perspective, that's the first thing that I always tell someone that wants to embark on this. We can just jump in and try and build this thing as quickly as possible, and that will ultimately not be flexible, will not be scalable, and eventually just going to have to rebuild it. Or we can spend a lot of time planning the data model, planning the automations, planning the processes, and then build it in a way that will be flexible, that will be agile, that will be scalable. So the real key to any online business or cloud business is spending enough time upfront to plan properly and design properly, especially on the technicalities. Design the data model, design it to be flexible, design it to be agile. Otherwise, you're just going to eventually run into a wall where it's not agile enough or it's not scalable enough.
Now, in your role as an investor and an advisor to many digital businesses, what do you often see they get wrong? What do other businesses that are trying to build up their e-commerce or their online presence, what are the typical traps that they fall into?
The first trap is the one that I've already mentioned, where they view it like a traditional business. You know, when problems arise, we'll just throw resources at those problems. Instead of viewing it in reverse, we have to design this from the start. We have to plan for it to be completely automated, or it's as automated as it possibly can be. But the second trap is that people think an online business will magically just grow all by itself.
Come on, man, you just press run and the code goes by itself.
Once we've built a great website, this business is just going to fly all by itself. That's the biggest trap that I see, where people don't realize that an online business is like any other business. You have to work at it. The example I always use is you can build the best shopping mall in the world in the middle of the Kalahari Desert. If you don't tell people it's there, and if you don't find a way for them to get there, nobody's going to shop at your best shopping mall. It's exactly the same with an online business. You can build the best website in the world. If nobody visits it, you're never going to sell anything. So for me, one of the biggest traps that people fall into is to think that an online business will just run all by itself. It doesn't. It runs through processes that are well designed. It runs through automation. It does run through staff that actually do their jobs and work at the business. It's not a magic formula to move a business into the cloud. It's just a better way of doing business if you do it right.
Now, I know that you know a lot about coding, and we've had many conversations about technical and geek things. But how do you advise businesses where people are so stuck, busy writing code and busy tweaking a process here and changing their website over there? As an investor, what is the advice that you give people?
Well, actually, that's another pitfall, Sean, where people can get so hung up on the technicalities that they stop and forget to focus on their business and to actually run their business. So the advice that I give people there is that you actually have to take a step back from all the technicalities as the business owner or as the CEO and allow technical experts to do that for you. That's one of the easiest things that can go wrong, is for people to get so involved, or the management of the business to go so involved in the technical side themselves that they lose focus and they stop spending time on growing their business, and instead they're spending time on growing the technology. So yes, the technology is critically important, but if that's not your skill, if you're a good marketer, if you're a good manager, you must focus on running your business and find a partner that will focus on building the technology for you.
Okay. I know from experience that online businesses often have to integrate very closely into the business models of their suppliers, of their partners, and of their clients. Can you just briefly touch on that? What have you had to do in the past with TicketPro, for instance?
So yes, integration is a key factor. It's something you just cannot overlook in any sense when you're building any kind of online business, because it comes back to automation. So in TicketPro, for instance, we never really believed that we needed retail outlets. We believed that we could sell tickets just through the internet. People print them themselves at home. But many of our clients actually insisted that they want retail outlets. Some of our clients were very scared of home printed tickets. They wanted people to still pick up a physical paper ticket with lots of security. So we needed to have retail outlets, even though we didn't believe in them. So when we started out, I went and I did a deal with Postnet to be retail outlets for us.
Okay.
And so in our first year, we had 200 retail outlets where, number one, people could physically walk in and buy tickets over the counter and pay cash, for instance. But secondly, some of our customers allowed people to buy tickets online, but then they still have to collect a physical ticket from a store. So there were two elements. There were both sales and collections, which is the sale, they collect the money. With the collection, we owe them a service fee for the service they rendered. So there we built all the necessary integrations for that to be a completely automated process. Once a week on a Monday morning, every one of the 200 stores received an automated recon from us. How many sales have they done? How many collections have they done? How much money do they owe us for the sales? How much money do we owe them for the collections? Okay. And every Wednesday night, we would automatically collect the money from their bank accounts and automatically pay the money into their bank accounts after an offset's been done. That was just one of the automations we had to build to make our business run. Now, if you think about it, when we started that business, we were competing with this mammoth called CompuTicket, which is part of an even bigger mammoth called ShopRite Checkers. They had virtually endless resources. We decided to take on this mammoth through the cloud and through automation.
Okay. But tell me a little bit, I mean, because what you've just told now with recon on Monday, money transfers on a Wednesday, it sounds to me also that an online business runs at a different time scale. It's almost running in a different universe from our, physical premises that we often think of office hours, and month ends. Just can you quickly talk about that? Because it seems to me like the tempo is also very different, and the scale, the time scale.
Yes, the tempo is very different because the consumer's expectation is different. If you walk into a physical brick and mortar store, you have a certain expectation the store's going to be open from 9 to 5. As soon as you go online, the consumer's expectation is different. The expectation is that it's open 24 hours a day. Yep. Their expectation is that the emails are going to get answered within seconds, which isn't always feasible, but that's their expectation. Their expectation is that they're going to receive confirmation of their purchase immediately. So because the consumer's expectation is so much higher in terms of tempo, the business also has to be so much better in terms of tempo, and everything needs to happen quicker. You cannot have you can't spend a month selling online and then expect an accountant to go and recon everything. You have to do all of that every day. It has to be imported into your accounting system at least every day. You're also probably going to generate thousands more transactions than you would in a traditional business. So you have to think about how do those transactions automatically integrate into whatever accounting system you use. You have to think about even moving your accounting into the cloud so that all of that can happen automatically. So yes, the tempo is a lot faster, but that's the whole point of having an agile business. So you can adopt and adapt a lot quicker and respond to those kinds of challenges a lot quicker.
You once before told me about how your business went from 3 to 5 people and how the finances changed. I mean, without mentioning too much details, but can you just share some of that? Because I always find it amusing how you went from 3 to double.
Yeah, I mean, it's very simple. I don't mind sharing some details. The first year when we started Ticket Pro, we sold 1 million tickets and we were 3 people, including ourselves. So with a business with only 3 people, we took on CompuTicket and we gave them a bloody nose. The second year we sold 12 million tickets and we were still only 5 people. And those 5 people all worked from home in 5 different cities scattered across the country. We were, in every sense of the word, a virtual business. We had no office, we had no PBX. But we operated like a real business with a phone number, with a PBX that transfer calls between staff members, with a massive online presence, with 200 retail outlets. But we were a completely virtual business with no premises whatsoever.
Magnus, let's start wrapping this up. For people that are listening now, that are in the last month during the lockdown thinking, I'm using Zoom now every day, I'm making Skype calls every day, my business has gone digital. What does it take to rethink your business in the online world? If you had to give a person now with the resources, with a market, with a product, if you had to give them advice onto how to make their business digital, what advice would you give?
Well, the first thing, Sean, is just to say I'm using Gmail for my email and I'm using Zoom for my meetings. That doesn't make you a digital business. That just makes you a traditional business that have adopted a few little strategies to make your life easier during the lockdown. If you really want to be a digital business, the first thing you have to do is to take a step back. Just take a step back, and exactly what we said at the beginning, you have to start thinking and planning, how will my online business be different and better than my current traditional business? It's not just about finding the right courier to deliver things. It's about really rethinking your entire business. How can you automate things? How can you make the processes better? How can you reduce costs? Because it's going to become an increasingly competitive market. I've been saying for the last 3 years that businesses that don't adopt a cloud strategy, unfortunately, I think they will struggle and many of them will go out of business. The landscape is just going to become more and more competitive because it's easier for people on the other side of the world to suddenly compete with us than it's ever been. And it's easier for us to compete with them than it's ever been before. So you have to take a step back Don't just try and put a thin cloud layer on top of your existing business. That's not what we're talking about.
We're not talking about slapping an online website onto your current business.
No, that's a good start, but that's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is rethinking your entire business to be an online business, to benefit from consumers on the other side of the country or on the other side of the world, to benefit from cloud technologies that's out there that will make your business hugely scalable. You have to literally rethink every aspect of your business and spend some time planning it so you can put a vision down in paper, make it plain, and then get the technology partners involved to help you build all of that if you don't have the skill yourself.
I just have to bring in here the importance of the customer, because we also build an online business because it's a new way of meeting the needs of a client, a prospective buyer. And for me, a big difference between an online business and a physical business is, in a physical business, we often have to wonder, what is the client thinking? What other options are they looking at? Where have they been? In the online world, we actually have a far more, even if it's distant, we have a far more intimate relationship with the client, because we can literally see what they are searching for, what they've bought in the past. It's a very different business that you can build around a client using new technologies, because I've also experienced people trying to do things online and then they forget the client, the customer. And the
absolutely.
I think in the last month, customers' tolerance of online shopping and online risk has changed tremendously. So I think there's an opportunity now. What you would have struggled with 3 years ago, I think after this last month would be much easier now.
Absolutely, Sean. Customers are suddenly thinking very, very different. We were a little bit ahead of the curve when 6 years ago we tried to start a business in the US to allow doctors to see their patients over the internet. Suddenly in the last month, everybody wants to do what we've been trying to get them to do for the last 6 years. So I think the last month, 2 months, worldwide consumer behavior have changed a lot, and people are looking a lot more towards online. And you're right, there's a lot of information about customers that's available, but you absolutely have to think about your customer. For instance, in Cape Town, we sell a tourist pass that allow people to visit multiple attractions effectively with one ticket. What are we actually selling? What we're actually selling is convenience.
Selling convenience, yes.
So you have to think about the customer and what it is that they want. Do they really want to save money on seeing everything in Cape Town, or do they want the convenience of going everywhere without too much planning and too much transactions, etc., etc.? So you have to really think about who the consumer is, who the customer is, and what's going to drive their behavior. And luckily for all of us, I think in the last 2 months it's gotten easier, because now suddenly people who were resistant to doing things online were forced to do things online. So I believe for all of us, it's opened up a multitude of more customers, more consumers, but you still have to get into their mind and work out what drives them, what will make them buy from you rather than the 10 million other guys that's selling on the internet right now.
Magnus, I want to end with a more personal note. I know that some years ago you bought a property and you had plans drawn up. It was just here behind us on the hill, and I remember the excitement of your whole family. And then, what happened?
And then what happened was God reminded me of a very old dream. More than 20 years ago, I dreamt of having a publicly traded company, and suddenly, a little over 3 years ago, God reminded me of that dream. And because back then it was nearly impossible. It was just an unattainable goal for a young guy with somewhat little experience. But then God reminded me of this dream, and I really felt that what God said to me was that this is the pearl of great price, and we as a family have to be prepared, like that merchant in the Bible who sold everything to buy that field. Mm-hmm. We have to be prepared to put everything that we have on the line. Now, in a traditional sense, that's not good advice. So I wouldn't advise people, generally speaking, to do that.
That's your testimony.
But that's what we felt that God told us to do. So we have put everything on the line. We've sold property. We've invested in this dream drastically. And we are still, at this stage, still pursuing the dream. There's been challenges along the way. There's been a lot of shake-up in the capital markets in South Africa. Literally the day we started our roadshow to investors was the day that the president fired the Minister of Finance.
Oh, that sounds like fun. How convenient.
So we've had challenges along the way, but we've also learned a lot along the way. And maybe for CRC, I want to, in a minute, say one of the biggest lessons we've learned. The biggest lesson we've learned is that we were thinking small. When we started on that process, the minimum capital that the JSE required for us to raise to be listed using the route that we wanted to take was 50 million rand. I didn't think, I'm not the kind of guy to ever aim for the minimum. So in our presentation to potential investors, we said that we're trying to raise 100 million.
Yeah, I mean, double is not a bad margin.
And then we had an interesting response. The very first meeting that we had, very first investor we saw, paged through our presentation, and somewhere it said, we're aiming to grow to R1 billion market cap in 3 years. And he looked at it and he said, oh, you say you're going to grow to R1 billion. You do know it gets easier after 2 billion, right?
Brilliant.
We literally sat with guys who said to us, you're asking me to invest 20 million. I'm not allowed to make investments that small. I'll be breaking the rules if I do that. So it was just an absolute eye-opener to see that what we think is big is not what other people think is big. I mean, I literally had a 20 million rand investment commitment from a company where he said to me, I like what you're doing, but I'm breaking the rules by making investments this small. So
even if it's hard,
it's a huge challenge, Sean, and I haven't gotten there yet. I'm honest, we haven't attained it yet. We're still chasing the dream, but we have learned that we have to just think bigger and not be afraid of thinking bigger, and not be afraid to lose things along the way.
Madness, I know that you've been working very hard on all the paperwork and the documentation behind the scenes. I pray for you for this process to be concluded and for you to reach your goal.
Thank you.
So
Thank
that
you.
we can all celebrate together and say leaving the dream of the house behind was definitely the right plan. So we pray that over you and over the businesses that you are investing in and the people that you are working with. And thank you very much for taking this time. Thank you for talking to us, even though you've still got the flu. We pray for your health and your protection.
Thank you, Sean. Just the last comment, it's all about souls.
That's right.
It's all about people. So at the end of the day, we do all of this so that we can see people changed.
Bless you.
Thank you.